Yeah, let's talk about this tone, man. This has always been one that's eluded me, and I still work on it often. And it's the really '90s era Brent, man. Who's Cheating Who? Gone Country. I'm in Love with You, Baby. Like it's that era, and it's my favorite. It's just got a thing. And some of the complicated things in this tone, I tend to believe, and we're going to talk today in the terms of tend to believe. Brent has become a friend in the industry, and it's interesting because I don't want to ever bother him. I never want to bother him with anything. But it's like, some of these old records I know Brent, and Brent has come to the Woodshed Guitar Experience, since we've been doing it. And I've seen him play through a microcube. I've seen him play through a Bella, a Sir Bella. I've seen him play through a Fender Bassman, a Twin, everything. It just always sounds like Brent. Okay. Now there's one thing that I noticed that Brent doesn't do live, and he doesn't do that doubler, roomy, slightly oscillated kind of, I don't know what you call it, but it's definitely an effect. He doesn't do that live. And he kind of is a more raw, pure guitar into amp kind of tone. Okay. So the engineers on those records, I'm going to look it up real quick just to verify my homework while we do this. And thanks for being here today. As always, Tuesdays in the Woodshed, something I really look forward to. Let's look up mixed engineer. Let's see who did these. Maybe let's do I'm in Love with You, Baby. Right. I think the song is I Don't Even Know Your Name. Who engineered that record? Here we go. I'm looking up the song now. And if somebody knows this off the top of their head, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. Let's pull that down. Oh, so here it is. It's the Who I Am record. There's the track listing. Recorded in 94. Let's see. Charts, sales, references, track. Here we go. Here you go. Musicians, technical. Recorded and mixed by John Kelton. Keith Stegall was producing, obviously. Additional recording, Steve Lowry. So, John Kelton is the name that I think is really important in today's conversation. Brent plays, I mean, I've seen Brent play 25 times in my lifetime, and he never goes for that doubling thing that's on those records. That thing. You hear it? It's on the records. It's on the records, but it's not it's not something I hear in his live tone. So that makes me believe that our boy John Kelton here in the mix process has added some room, maybe with a favorite outboard piece of gear, or maybe he's doing it. I don't, it's like, is it doing it in the box with plug-in? I don't know. But I definitely believe that when you hear these songs, I'm using a Fractal Axe-Fx right now. And I sat with this last night for a good bit. This Fractal Axe-Fx patch is available to my Patreon members. Patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic. Okay. If you want it, you can just go get it. The conversation here is this tone. This is my favorite Brent tone ever. It's like a slicker version of the tone on the Brooks and Dunn albums, right? And by slick, I mean there's some post EQ and processing. I mean, if you look behind me right here, you can see the Vintage Deluxe right there. That is an original pre-CBS 1963 Fender Deluxe reverb. That is the amp that I think Brent used most, not that specific amp, but that year and that model that Brent used on the Alan Jackson records and the Brooks and Dunn records and things like this. Now, there's no mid control on this amp. Okay. Also, Brent uses a thumb pick with the fingernails. It's going to provide a different EQ curve. So there's some factors there, but the mid control in the EQ, I notice, and let me pull up my EQ that I've got, and I'm going to turn it on and off so you guys can hear it. I'm going to give you the parametric EQ. And boy, this is some deep. Now we're getting really deep in the weeds. Yes, I have played Brent's guitar through his rig. So I feel like I'm decently qualified to have this conversation. Let's turn off everything that I've got going on except the model of the Deluxe reverb and the cabinet. That sounds like a Deluxe to me. You know how the mid-range is like kind of honky? The thing that I've got on the cabinet is, a 57 and a 121. This is all just kind of emulating. Here's the 57. Sounds like a 57. Here's the 121. Real dumpy, like a 121. Kind of where that round thing's coming from. Okay, now the next thing we're going to add in, Brent used to use an old Boss CS compressor. I think a CS2 is that thing. I can't remember if that's the exact number, CS3, something like that. I'm going to turn on this compressor model, which is emulated to that. It's got a real fast attack time and a real fast release time. That kind of emulates that old Boss unit. Now let's turn on the parametric EQ. I'm doing a couple of things that I think the mix engineer did. I'd love to verify this at some point in life if anybody knows the truth to this. What I've got going on is I've got a pretty gnarly dip of about 7 dB, and that's dipping it right at 1,000 hertz. Now I've got another bump, about a 3 dB bump at 400 hertz. Okay. And then I've got one more spiky little frequency at around 40, like 4K, right? Like around 4K, I've got about a 2.5 dB bump. Now here's the tone without the EQ. Here comes the EQ. Now that's starting to really sound like Brent, especially on those licks. Okay, so that's the EQ. Now here's where things get real tricky. It's in this doubling effect. Let me turn this on and this on. Now it sounds like the Brent thing. I'm doing some tricky stuff in here with this. I don't want to show you too much how the sausage is made, but it's a real quick slap back. Let's hear just the slap back. See how quick that is? That really sounds like Chattahoochee to me. Let's turn it off. Let's turn it back on. Okay, and now let's turn that off and hear just the reverb. So it doesn't sound like the reverb's doing a lot. To me, it's kind of emulating a little bit of a room mic. I've got the stereo spread kind of at an interesting point. I've got the time at an interesting point, the pre-delay at an interesting point. And it puts that shimmer around it, okay? Now, when I add in the delay and we get both of them together, and that really sounds as close as I've probably ever had it. Starts to sound like it, to me at least. Now I can't reference a bunch of these tunes on a live stream because they'll strike it. You know what I mean? They'll say, "Hey, take that down." Slap me on the wrist. You know, Chuck will be mad. I'll be sad. There will be, right? But to me, this is the thing that sounds like it. Okay. It's really so sonically deceptive is how I'll describe it, because it sounds like there's not a lot going on. But when you combine the amalgam of everything and you get it just right, you're like, yep, there's actually more going on than you think. And I think that goes back to the credit list. So on the Who I Am record, which is Alan Jackson, let me give you the full liner notes. Alan's singing, right? And then Eddie Bayers is playing drums, one of my all-time favorite drummers. Stuart Duncan on fiddle, Robbie Flint, Larry Franklin on fiddle, Paul Franklin on steel guitar, no relation, John Huey on steel guitar, Roy Husky Jr., rest in peace, one of the greatest of all time on the upright, John Kelton, who is our recording and mixing guy. He's playing some tic-tac bass, which is kind of like 6-string bass. Not 6-string like you're thinking of it, but closer to like what you see Mark Lettieri play with the Fearless Flyers, like that kind of thing. Brent Mason, he's out. Here it is, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, don't even know your name, right? Pig Robbins on piano, Wesley Riles on backing vocals, Keith Stiegel, acoustic guitar and piano, Bruce Watkins, acoustic guitar, Glenn Morf, acoustic guitar. On the tech side, John Kelton, recording and mixing, Steve Lowry, additional recording, Keith Stiegel, production, Hank Williams, mastering. Okay, so this was Who I Am peaked at number 5 on U.S. Billboard 200. It was number 1 on top country albums. Sold 100,000 copies, becoming Alan Jackson's second number 1 album. In 99, Who I Am was certified 4 times platinum. So the record went 4 times platinum. And this is a big one. This is a big record for Tellytone, in my opinion. They're all really great. All the records are really great. All the AJ records, all the Brooks and Dunn records. I mean, there's no shortage of just brilliant musicianship on them. But with that said, one always has to just have that thing, that little extra something special. And I think the Who I Am record has the extra something special. You've got, on this record, you got Summertime Blues, Living on Love, Gone Country, I Don't Even Know Your Name, which is, these have just this, man. You know, I think, I can't remember the Summertime Blues intro. I remember being deep. I can't remember if it starts on, I think it starts on C sharp. It does. Now let's compare it. I'm going to take all the things off. Let's remove the delay, the verb, and the EQ. And we'll leave the compressor on. So when you add that EQ, it really gets specific. That's like that round thing. Again, it's like nothing's being moved too far in any one direction as far as an EQ curve. There's a couple of little bumps in there, and there's a little dip at 1,000, right? Like at 1,000, I'm pulling it down 7 dB, bumping it at 400, bumping it at 4K, right? 400 and 4K. Now let's add the delay and the verb in. And you get... It's really that kind of there. It's a really great tone to play on. I don't know how else to describe it, but the tone to play on just feels good. So Dustin, okay, we've got some questions about the delay. The delay that I'm using right now is not what I use. This is a delay setting that I've built for this Brent tone. And it's a really quick slap back, minimal mix. Don't get too crazy with the mix. The mix is at 13%. It doesn't take much. And the reverb's a little hotter, but I've got a stereo spread on the reverb, and I've got a bit of a pre-delay. And the size of the room, I've just moved it in the echo density to where I think it sounds correct. Where I think it sounds like Brent in the 90s, Alan Jackson, Who I Am record era. So, with that said, down here at the bottom, Dustin's talking about the dual delay. That I would say it's close to 375 and 500, but it's a little more like 380 something and like 490 something. It's a little closer to that. It's not quite 375, 500, but it's around that era. Roman says, Andy, do you own any guitars with a B-bender? Yes, I do. I have one hanging on the wall. My very first real professional guitar was a B-bender Tele. Yeah. So, yeah. We're getting some questions here. Let's open up the floor. Now, did this era of Brent, was this your favorite Brent tone? Is this the one that you guys like? Let's get this chat rolling. And I'm curious to see who in the room is like the big Brent Mason aficionado, kind of like I'm the mega fan, right? So I'm checking out the chat here. Yeah, cheers everyone who saw me play with Steve Morse. That was really so special. I've said it in the video. You know, my emotions were running so high and my excitement was running so high. You know, it wasn't my greatest playing that I've ever done in my career. But I think that's the lesson I had to learn. You know, it sounded okay. It sounded okay. But it was the lesson, you know, of like, man, you can't let your emotions cloud your judgment. You know, a bit of a Jedi lesson in there. You know what I mean? Honey Picks is in the house. Man, thank you so much, Honey Picks. Let me step right out of frame here real quick. I'm grabbing these because I'm going to share some love here. So I was in Charlotte on the clinic tour. Grab the old telly. I know the Sir guys, they're going to be like, why do you call it a telly? It's not. It's a T. I get it. Honey Picks, man, the guys at Honey Picks made me a beautiful little care package here. And all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, when we were doing the clinic tour. And just has some little doodads and trinkets in here that I thought was so very kind. And there are multiple sizes in here with this is from Rick and Andrew over there at Honey Picks. And I can't wait to get in here and test these out specifically on acoustic guitar, you know? That's the thing that's interesting to me, is always on acoustic. So it looks like right here in this first package, this orange one's kind of calling to me, right? Because of the shape. Yeah, it feels great. A little brighter. Yeah, it sounds really good. Compared to the darker sound of the yeah, it feels good too. Yeah, that point on that one really gives it that top end shimmer. Yeah, you see what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, picks are a thing for sure. And he's got me several different shapes in here to mess with, poke around on. So I can't wait to do that. Thanks for that. All you friends over there. I'm always pulling with different picks to try to get different sounds and tones, because so much of everything starts right there at your hands. It really does with your EQ curve. I mean, I've got some here that are like thin, just like a thin blue one that I use for strumming. Really good for that thing, right? And here's another little thin one. No, I don't even know whose this is. Oh, this looks like Sean Tubbs. Yeah, I got Sean Tubbs' pick here from the Tilt. Same kind of thing. Good strumming pick. Okay, let's dig in here to chat. Okay. The breakup feels sweet. Only know Brent from Hotwired, and only then because of the pedal. Man, you guys have got to get some of these 90s country records and listen to Brent's playing on it. Just absolutely incredible. Really, really, really incredible stuff. Brent is one of my all-time favorite players. I think like if you have to say a Mount Rushmore, Brent's on it. Let me say this with the Mount Rushmore thing. There's 4 people that we're not going to ever put on Mount Rushmore because they are their own Mount Rushmore of electric guitar. And that's Hendrix, Ed Van Halen, Clapton, and Jeff Beck. They are their own Mount Rushmore. That's everybody's Mount Rushmore. So when I say my Mount Rushmore, I would probably say Tony Rice, Brent Mason, Steve Morse, Eric Johnson. Like that's like the 4. And any given day, one of those could move for Dan Huff. I would probably make a 5-man Mount Rushmore and put Dan on there, right? And when I say that, it's not because I don't love other players, hadn't learned as much from other players. Those were just the guys that really got me started. That was like really like what hooked me on everything. And then of course, it's like freaking, Slash and Derek Trucks, Dwayne Allman and Dickie Betts. And it's an endless a monument of inspiration. Ricky Skaggs, Albert Lee, Ray Flack, Roy Nichols. It's endless, right? Yngwie, right? Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. So many great players that deserve to be on that. Jimmy Page is for songwriting. Yeah, no question. Jimmy Page would be up there for songwriting. When I'm talking about this is more from a technical facility kind of standpoint, right? One of the most fun things about playing in a country cover band was learning all of Brent Mason's solos and riffs. That's what Joel says. The MIM strat. Yeah. Okay. Dustin Chang says recommendations for things that Brent Mason has played on. Let me go ahead and give you the iconic riff playlist. This is 78 songs. Alan Jackson's Chattahoochee, Watermelon Crawl, John Michael Montgomery is the Grundy County Auction, Brooks and Dunn, Hard Working Man, John Deere Green by Joe Diffie, As Good As I Once Was, Toby, Pickup Man, Joe Diffie, I'm From the Country, Tracy Byrd, Mercury Blues, Alan Jackson, Rock My World, Little Country Girl, We'll Burn That Bridge When We Get There, Mama Don't Get Dressed Up for Nothing. These are all Brooks and Dunn. Working on My Next Broken Heart, Little Miss Honky Tonk, How Long Gone Are You Gonna Be, Looking for a Good Time, Alan Jackson, Who's Cheating Who, Alan Jackson, Papa Top, Mercury Blues, Tim McGraw, Refried Dreams, Joe Diffie again with Country, Tracy Byrd Records, obviously. I'm just scrolling through here. Wade Hayes on a Good Night, Don't Stop. She's in Love with the Boy, Trisha Yearwood. I mean, there's so many Clay Walker records, Colin Ray records. Who else is in here? Terry Clark, Ty Herndon, Daryl Singletary records, Mark Wills, Aaron Tippin. I mean, it's just really, really spectacular. There's so much good Brent stuff out there in the and here's Levi Clay's. Let me just do this. Let me share this Brent Mason iconic riff with you guys. What we're going to do is we're going to do this, and we're going to do share, copy link to playlist. I'm going to put it in the chat right here. Here's number 1. Okay. That's coming at you. Okay. And then I'm going to give you another one. And this one is amassed by my good friend, Levi Clay. Levi is the best. I love that dude. He does such great work, and he's such a talented individual. Great ears. Great player. Here you go. And this is his list of Brent Mason tunes. Yeah, Pickup Man is interesting. What is the I think it's that. Yeah. I think it's like that. Yeah, it's definitely that thing. I play really hard when I'm doing this style. I play really, really hard. So it's like my fingers, they get wore out. Thomas Moore is saying Brent's Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed stuff's incredible. I mean, like, everything about it's fantastic. There's also, I kind of keep this here for constant inspiration. This is like the Brent book from when he did, God, this came out with Hot Wired. But it's just, it's just inspirational. I keep Brent, I wrote Brent when I was about 17 years old, and I keep that letter on my wall when he wrote me back. So since I was a kid, I've got Brent's letter on my wall, and he's just been such a huge part of my musical journey, in so many ways, and now he's a guest at Woodshed, and he's just the best. I mean, you talk about what the resume and like he's just incredible. All the things he's ever done, the way he plays guitar is truly, truly once in a generation. I mean, it really is. Like, he's, in my opinion, the greatest Telecaster player to ever live. That's just my opinion. I think it's sound. I think that's a sound opinion, right? It's just tone and touch and musical ideas, and he did a guest solo on my new record. I'm really excited for you guys to hear that. It's on the tune Free Range Chicken. So Ed Zimmerman is saying, how do your pickups affect your sound versus his? You roll back the volume and tone. This is just wide open. This is just this is built around my main guitar, my main single coil guitar. This is not too different of an instrument from Brent's as far as tone woods and the style of pickup. This is, Brent's got the middle pickup, and he's got a mini humbucker in the front, but the bridge pickup is similar in what it does, and the, making the low strings have that wiry bite, but the top treble strings not slicing your head off. And the body is swamp ash and the neck is maple. This is pretty much the Brent kind of ride, really. Now, of course, mine's got like the hot rod heel joint and the flat radius and 24 frets, and it's like there's some things there that I've customized to suit my style. I dip a little bit more into the rock shred thing than Brent does, but Roman is chiming in here saying Brent's old instructional video is a gold mine. Also, I think he talks there about playing direct into a board on a lot of those sessions. Yeah, so, I know from my conversations of hanging with Brent, the early years were direct. And it was really in the 90s when they were looking for a different sound in Nashville. They were looking for something less processed and more organic. And so that's when the Brooks and Dunn records and the AJ records were coming out. And they put amps in the room. And that's essentially, the rest is history from there. They were just looking, because you got to keep in mind, guys, in the 80s, going direct and playing direct was such a fad everywhere. I mean, people were like, oh yeah, clean, direct, clean, direct, clean. And man, it's not, that ain't it. Like, I don't like that approach for me. If I'm going to go direct, I'm still going to use a modeler of some sort to not sound like I'm playing direct. Will Barton is in the house. Everyone, if you have a chance to go check out Will's channel, Will is a fantastic Telecaster player. Just one of the finest. I need to, Will, you and I need to get on there and trade some licks, man. Fishbulb says, I really only get into the Prince and Motown direct sounds. There's some great direct sounds out there. I'm just referencing country music. That's really what I'm saying. It's just like, from a country music standpoint, the direct thing is not for me. I like the amps in a room, things that are Fender amps, right? Deluxes and bass masters and twins, kind of. A super is always a great sounding amp for country. Fishbulb, it's like they just, it's like they just sound like the Alabama records, and they sound like the Dolly Islands in the Stream. That's a great kind of direct sounding kind of record, but to me, it's the Alabama sounds that really sound direct. And I don't mean the 90s, 80s, and 90s. I mean like more the the early 80s ones are really kind of direct. I think maybe even George Strait's The Chair has that kind of direct sound. Now I'm not saying these were recorded direct or they weren't. I'm just saying it was that kind of tone and that kind of sound on those records. Wayne Bracer is in the house. Hope you're doing well, Wayne. Tweeds are great. Yeah. And now here's the dangerous thing with a tweed. They can start breaking up a little early. And so when I'm looking for this style of tone, I'm looking for that clean headroom. If I'm not mistaken, Brent had an old vintage 30 in his deluxe that he put in. And a new vintage 30 is brittle, especially the upper mids, kind of pokey, kind of thing. But when you have one that's really nice and worn in, it's a great thing. And his obviously is, worn in. Just checking out making sure I'm caught up here. Yeah. So Ryan Brown is talking about the Keith Whitley records as well. Yeah. I mean, this is, that's definitely a thing too, right? Some of those Keith Whitley records are so good, man. Let me give you one of my favorite tunes is 10 Feet Away by Keith Whitley. If you have a chance to listen to that song, that's a really great song. Really, really well written. Fishbulb says, Dustin, there's a Spotify playlist with 30 hours work of music. It's the Brent Mason Session Works. Ryan Brown is saying you think that's his best song. 10 Feet Away is a great song, isn't it? Yeah, the Princeton, I mean, if you have 4 of them, right? Maybe that'll do it. And they're all just barely on or not breaking up a lot. It's really about clean tone, like making it sound round. Yeah, I think that really, you know, again, let me just hit the guitar by itself, and you can hear how many things or artifacts are kind of swirling around it. Now let me turn those artifacts off. Yeah, it really kind of gets it into that, you know, round kind of thing. And when you hear this, I see Area 859 saying there's a special way that I've married all of my genres into my playing. I mean, you can definitely hear the Brent Mason stuff when I play Junktown without the Junktown tone, without the overdriven telly, rock telly thing. When I play Junktown by itself, it sounds like a Brent song. Okay, so now we're getting some questions in here. Jeremy Donovan's asking about a bandmaster. I'm hoping it's okay. I mean, you know, the number one thing that I would get after working on this tone, guys, the number one thing is a graphic EQ. I've got the XTS EQ on my board, and that's simply something where they take the stock Boss EQ and kind of just nudge some of the frequencies around. I think that's the most important thing that you can have on your board is the graphic EQ when you're trying to shape into some of these kind of tones. Bandmasters are good. Ryan's scoping my Blackberry Blossom. It's always living there, man. Blackberry Blossom's always living. It's always in the diet. Dustin Chang says, I've probably heard more country than I think because Hawaiian artists have been doing country covers for longer than I realize. Probably only heard the local version of 10 Feet Away, right? Cole is saying, random question, Andy. Do you use different picks for acoustic and electric? I've heard of people doing that a decent bit. I sure do. So when I'm playing electric and I'm playing live, I use these Planet Waves Black Ice. I love the custom picks like the honey picks or the blue chips. These are really great, except the downfall is you can't throw them out into the audience because you'll never get them back. And they cost a lot of money to make. However, these Planet Waves, they put my logo on them and I could chuck those out into the audience. You know, even if I have like the AW, some with the AW on them. Chuck those out and, you know, put those out into the world, seed the world with the AW action. On acoustic guitar and acoustic instruments, I use a much bigger shape. I use this blue chip. That's a big difference right there. So let's talk about that right there. So yeah, when I'm on an acoustic guitar, I want to have as much of this right here under the getting under the string, right? I want to have more pick getting under the string. That's really what it's about. And I've also got this right here that I've messed around with. This is like I don't know, Pro Play. I don't know what that is, but I've been messing with that as well. Okay, we'll wrap it up here for another couple of questions. The Boss EQ has some special sauce. It feels like an overdrive. It for sure can if you push the level. You for sure can. Itchy Brother in the house, not Brent, but are you hip to the Lauderdale record Planet of Love? It's like a love letter to Bakersfield. No, I need to check that out. I'd love to check that out. Archer says, here's a weird theory question. Are you playing Helldivers 2? I'm not. I want to try out Helldivers. Unfortunately, we're at the end of the life cycle of Destiny 2 with the final shape coming out. And so I've really been playing the new Onslaught mode, enjoying some Destiny 2 time because the final shape approaches, and I'm ready to wrap up that saga. One of the titles that I do like, I like that Samurai Showdown remake. It's kind of a throwback fighting game. I really love that. Sonny says, is Brent using amps? He sure is. Now, I know that Brent also uses some plugins and software stuff. Brent is a guy that can use anything, but when he plays live, he always seems to have an amp. Everywhere I've seen him play, he's using amps, and usually two, like two supers or something like that, right? Kind of that thing, stereo thing. Not a complicated rig. Brent doesn't have complicated stuff. He's the thing that's complicated about Brent is the level of technical facility he has in those hands. Definitely. Like I said, I'll probably die on the hill with it, but he's just he's just the greatest Telecaster player of my lifetime. And that's saying something because there's some monsters out there. And that's also not to take away from Albert Lee and Ray Flack and Jerry Donahue and John Jorgensen and Jimmy O from Diamond Rio. The Bender stuff that he did, Brad Paisley, it's like there's so many great telly slingers out there. Brent just, I think the most terrifying country guitar chicken picking solo is Pick It Apart. Like that is the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. Really, really, unbelievable. And you got to throw the love to Jerry Reed, man. It's like where would Brent be without Jerry Reed? Because Jerry was the pioneer of that like double stop aggressive, like almost like taking the Chet thing but making it more aggressive and sassy. Jerry Reed was really a fantastic pioneer in guitar playing. Roy Nichols, man, like that's got to be said too. It's like the pioneer of the Telecaster chicken picking back pickup thing. Danny Gatton, it's like we're eventually gonna have to say that name. It's like Danny Gatton is had the nickname of the Humbler and the Redneck Jazz Explosion stuff. It's just really and you get into the Merle guitar players, then it starts turning into Red Volkert and Clint Strong, the mighty Clint Strong. Now, I don't consider Clint a telly player. That's because a lot of times he was playing a Les Paul, not a telly. He's a jazz box kind of guy. However, it's like it's a country guitar player, right? John Jorgensen and the Helicasters, man, those records were super important to me. I love the way John Jorgensen phrases. When it comes to a Nashville style player, John Jorgensen just doesn't sound like anybody except him. And if you've never heard him play, I invite you all to go check out. I just said Jimmy O. Coldest Endings, like, how about Jimmy Olander? I was like, I just said Jimmy O from Diamond Rio. I just didn't say Jimmy Olander, Jimmy O, I have the checkerboard pickguard on my Telecaster because of Jimmy O, Yeah, for sure. So Area 8859 again is asking about the new Sir 2-post bridge. I'm sure I will, I'm sure it's a thing. I didn't really, no, it's cool. I think whatever John Sir puts his name on is going to be up to par. So I'm excited to see the new bridge. I've got a guitar in production right now that is inspired by the LA Landau Huff world of the switches and the preamp and the whole deal. I've got a guitar that's being built like that. So I'm excited to get that back. A Strat with a hum single, kind of the LA caster, right? Purple, it's gonna be purple, which will be fun. But yeah, it's something I'm experimenting with John. I just had a big long call with John the other day, a 45-minute call, and was talking to him. You know, he developed that schematic for the Landau and the bump, the mid boost thing, and he helped design the PCB board that Tom Anderson uses for the switcheroo system, right? So John is obviously friends with Landau and those guys, and well versed in that thing. And we were talking about the stacked pickups and all this. So we're really in the rabbit hole on some research and development. You got to say Scotty Anderson. Ed Zimmerman's chiming in with Scotty Anderson. There's no doubt. That's it. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Lucas, it's a Super Strat. So this is just something we're just kind of messing with to, see what can be done. Taking my biggest influences when it comes to Strat tones, man, it is Dan Huff. I mean, Dan Huff is one of my favorite Strat tones of all time. Yeah, he's that, man. Roman is saying, Andy, is it spring already in Knoxville? It's nice and sunny. It is sunny here today, but it's still cold. We went to Cars and Coffee on Sunday, and I took the Z06 out. It was nice to get it out and rev it up a little bit. Dustin Chang says Dan Huff went direct. Not in Nashville, he didn't. He played a matchless DC-30. So not in Nashville, you didn't go direct. Man, Dan also, in some Dan Huff lore, there was, he got a lot of mileage out of the PV amps, not just the 5150s, but the PV classic lead series. It was like they called those, the Mississippi Marshalls, right? I think that was like the nickname of those amps, the classic lead series. Itchy Brutta says, hey, have you gone down the bender hole? My first real telly was a bender. I've been on the bender for many years, and I still feel at home at it. My guitars just don't have benders, but I do want to do an Andy Wood with a bender in it. I do at some point, and I think it might be fun to do one that's just like yellow, like the Olander thing, right? Do a yellow bender guitar. Maybe put both of them in there, both the G and the B. Really go full Olander. I think Greg Goldberg, I'm doing both, right? Like the bender that I've got on the wall is the B bender, right? So yeah. Hey buddy. Yeah, man. Just talking a little Telecaster here and talking about the Brent tone from the 90s. Again, guys, I can't take credit for any of this stuff. I'm just a conduit. I just want to be a vessel. Maybe some of you guys who don't know the names that I'm saying today, I just want to be a vessel for you to go look up some of these players and some of these moments. It's like, if you don't know who Ray Flack is, then you need to get some Ricky Skaggs records and listen to that. If you don't know who Albert Lee is, you need to listen to, Hummingbird and Country Boy and these things. And, Vince Gill, holy cow. Like, you cannot sleep on Vince Gill's playing. He could easily be a telly session guy, but he just has that voice and those songwriting chops, right? So many great players out there in the world, and luckily here in Tennessee we have a ton of great players here in the Nashville and the greater Nashville area. I consider myself in the greater Nashville area. I'm just a couple hours out. Right. So it's like, this is just something I hope you guys enjoyed today. And a little housekeeping. If you want the patch, I'll have Chuck put the patch on for sale on the website. So it'll be on the website. It's going to be called like AJ Era Brent Tone or something like that. And then if you are a Patreon member, on patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic, I've already uploaded the tones. So we'll probably do a video on it. I'm going to talk about this a little bit and maybe try to get some research done. And I might even reach out to Brent if he's in town and see if he'll chime in on the era and tell us about those sessions, and talk about that. I'll ask him if he wants to be on the channel. You can obviously catch Brent. Just reach out. Just go to his channels. You can catch out when he's going to be gigging out or playing or anything like that. And of course, if you want to hear his music in the chat list, you need to check those 2 Spotify links. Yeah. AndyWoodMusic.com will get you to all my tour dates. The next big tour date is the Dallas Guitar Show. It's the May 3rd. And I'm playing there May 3rd, 4th, 5th with Josh Rogers on the drum kit and Ben Eller on bass. And looking forward to those days. And we're doing an event there called Masters of the Telecaster that they've invited me be on. So I'm very honored. That's a big title. So to be invited to be on that was really, really cool. So yeah, looking forward to see all my friends down in Dallas, Arnie Newman, Mark Letary, all my friends over at Guitar Sanctuary, Brian and the crowd over there. And of course, seeing Greg Koch, the mighty Greg Koch down there, and Red Volkert and all the guys. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to get to Dallas. And if you want to see any other tour dates and show dates, including Gary LeVox dates, I'm going to be going out to Arizona in May with Gary LeVox. All of that is at AndyWoodMusic.com. Roman, thank you. Jim, all my friends. Thank you guys. Dustin, Greg Goldberg, Ed, all you guys. Thank you for being out here today, as always, in the live stream, hanging out with us, talking telly. Talking telly. That may be the name of the video. Let's talk telly. So, yeah, again, highlights, man. 90s era Brent. Listen when you listen at the tone, at the processing. It's obviously a real amp in a room, but there is definitely, Travis Toy and I have talked about it at length about that. What's that room kind of sound, that echoey kind of doubler, kind of thing that Brent had. And it's just, God, made those records sound good, and a lot of the licks that I'm referencing are from those AJ records specifically. AJ as in Alan Jackson. But Brooks and Dunn had a raunchier, overdriven kind of tube screamer on this tone kind of thing. Not as clean, a little more rowdy, honky tonk. Check those out too. So, with that said, everyone, be blessed. Have a happy Tuesday, and we'll catch up with you guys real soon.